This recording I'm going to explain this plan lesson, its activities, why we choose them, and also what motivates us. This lesson plan is divided into stations with its respective activities. As the name said, future and predict, each station is related to this topic. Main aim. At the end of the lesson, students will be better able to identify future tense and hypothetical situations. Evaluation criteria. Assessment performance. Indicators. Learners recognize modal, will, would to express their opinion or predictions about the future through listening activities. Students are asked to work in groups to develop sentences with future tenses. Students share their example through microphone and webcam. Interactive methodology, dialogic principles, meaning creation, equality of differences. Functional language, predicting. Expressing predictions or opinions regarding the future. Functional exponents. I think that it will happen. I would like that this happened. Language focus. Modals. Will, would. Vocabulary. Will, would. Assume knowledge. Anticipate problems and possible situations. Students are better able to create and write sentences in English using basic grammatical patterns. Example, John eats a fruit. Students may show some issues regarding the English tenses and their sentence patterns and some confusion at the moment to organize them. In a way to solve it, we could create it on a virtual whiteboard, the respective sentence pattern to make students learn and practice by themselves. And also, they could show some issues on the pronunciation. So, to solve it, we could repeat those sentences or words that are harder for them to pronounce all together. Station division. Subsidiary aims. Station 1. To recognize modal verbs such as will, would, to express their opinion or predictions about the future through listening. Skills and subsidiary skills. Listening. Method or approach. Bottom-up approach. Teaching aids. Video. Didactic sequence. Procedure. First, students are greeted into the station. Second, students are given instructions about what they have to do. Third, students are asked about their future. 4. Students are introduced the word will and would. 5th, students are shown a video about the use of will and would. Why we use a video in this station? Because students tend to be more engaged with videos or media resources in general. We have to keep in mind that now they are using their computers, so it is a good resource. Station 2. Subsidiary aim. To express their own future predictions or plans in a greeting way using will and would. Skills and sub-skill. Writing. Method approach. Grammar, syntax organization approach. Teaching aids. Flashcards. Didactic sequence procedure. First, students are greeted into the station. Second, students are given instruction about what they have to do. Third, students are made brief feedback about their previous station. 4. Students are shown flashcards about different future actions. 5th, students are asked about the flashcards. 6. Students are asked to write sentences of their future predictions or plans. 7th, students are checked their sentences. Why we use flashcards as materials? Because are attractive not only for visual students, but also for the ones that are a little bit boring, just watching a screen. Question 3. Subsidiary aim. To recognize some minimal pairs in order to improve their pronunciation. Skills and sub-skills, pronunciation, method, approach, direct method, teaching aids, flashcards with minimal pairs, dialogic sequence, procedure. First, students are greeted at the station. Second, the students are shown flashcards with minimal pairs. Third, the students practice the pronunciation. Fourth, students are given instruction in order to do the activity. Create sentences to practice minimal pairs. Fifth, students are helped with when it's necessary. 6. They are asked what minimal pairs are harder to pronounce for them. Why we use flashcards in this station? Because it is going to help us to engage the visual learners and listener learners. We could compare the minimal pairs one to another. We could teach pronunciation and also writing. Station 4. Subsidiary aim. To teach students grammatical patterns by a puzzle game in order to elicit them the future tense. Skills and sub-skills. Grammar. Method or approach. Grammar translation method. Teaching aids. Puzzle with words. Didactic sequence. Procedure. First, students are greeted into the station. Second, students are given instructions in order to do the activity. Third, students are shown the grammatical structure of will and would. Fourth, students are introduced to some example of modal verb will and would, the use. Fifth, students are given a puzzle with words to join them in the correct way. 6. Students are asked to create 3 sentences using at least 3 words from the puzzle. 7th, some students are asked to share their sentences through microphone or showing through webcam. Why we choose this material? We choose a puzzle because we want that our students have fun, but also learn new words and use it to create new sentences in future and predict things in the future.
This is the explanation of lesson number 2 of this pedagogical kit. The main purpose of this lesson is to make students able to recognize vocabulary about technological devices and their respective definitions. This lesson will be mainly focused on the principles of solidarity and transformation. That means students will collaborate between them to learn this new knowledge. This lesson is composed by 4 stations in which students will have to learn by games or by looking at pictures. In station number 1, vocabulary will be introduced to students through flashcards that include an image of a technological device such as computer, keyboard, flash drive, etc., and with a short definition. It is recommended to tell students to take notes about these flashcards. Then, students will receive and explain a handout of two items in which students have to match a word seen in the flashcards with a definition or explanation. Then, in item number 2, students will have to create sentences using any of the words previously seen, no matter the grammatical tense they use. In station number 2, students will have to read an article related to video game innovation. At the same time, students have to highlight some words previously seen and some synonyms of these words. Later, on item number 2, students have to decide if the 7 statements are true or false. For item number 2, it is recommended to select a student for each statement and tell if it is false or true. In station number 3, students will have to play a game called Slap the Word. Here, 2 students will have to hit a picture of one of the device words depending on what word a selected student says. For this activity, students can use a fly swatter or their hands. In station number 4, students will play with a crossword. At the beginning of the activity, students will receive a copy of the crossword previously mentioned in paper. This crossword will be projected as well. Students will be selected randomly to write a word depending on its respective definition. At the end of the lesson, students are congratulated for their participations in any of the activities of the lesson. In general terms, students will participate in these activities based on the principles of solidarity and transformation to learn this new knowledge by collaboration and transforming this new knowledge.
Well, hello. My name is Diego, and this is the lesson number 3 called Expressing an Opinion. Well, the main aim of this lesson is, at the end of the lesson, students will be better able to use modal verbs will and would, plus technology devices vocabulary, in order to use them to express an opinion either orally or in a written way. Well, now I'm going to explain the station number 1, which is about the writing skill. The approaches that will be used to do this station will be the direct method and the free writing, and the teaching aids will be a computer, a projector, a PPT, and a handout. The didactic sequence is: number 1, students are graded. 2, students are shown a PPT with examples of sentences with modals will and would. In this case, the collaborator is going to use a PPT in which there are some examples about the modals will and would. The number 3 says students are given a short handout with a text and some exercises about modals will and would. In this case, the students will be given a short handout with a little reading adapted from a web page and some exercises about modals will and would. Number 4, students are checked their answers on the worksheet once they finish, obviously. The number 5, students are asked to write examples using will and would. In this case, they are going to apply their previous knowledge, and they are going to write some examples using the will and would model. Students are asked to share their examples with the collaborator once they finish, and they will be corrected when necessary. Well, the station number 2 is going to be about the grammar skill. The method that is going to be used is the deductive approach, and the teaching aids are flashcards. The didactic sequence is: number 1, students are graded. Number 2, students are asked about previous learned vocabulary. Number 3, students are shown vocabulary flashcards to reinforce their prior knowledge. Number 4, students are asked about their favorite electronic device. In this case, the activity will be about a question to the students in which they will be asked their favorite electronic device. And in number 5, it says students are asked to write about their chosen device and describe how they would improve it. This activity is going to be very useful in order to teach the students about grammar skill. And number 6, students are checked their writing aloud. Well, the station number 3 is going to be about the speaking skill. The method that is going to be used is the direct method, and the teaching aids are going to be flashcards of electronic devices. The didactic sequence is number 1, students are graded. Number 2, students are asked about previous knowledge. Number 3, students are explained the instructions. Number 4, students are shown flashcards of technological devices. Number 5, students are asked a question, which is, what of these objects is more useful to their lives and why? Well, in this case, in this activity, students will be asked a question, which is, what of these objects is more useful to their lives and why? In order to get them to answer the question. And then in number 6, students are asked to share their opinions orally in order to improve their speaking skill. And number 7, students are prized for their participation and corrected when necessary. And finally, the station number 4, it's going to be about pronunciation skill. The method that is going to be used is the direct method, and the teaching aids are a whiteboard and some markers. Well, the didactic sequence is number 1, students are graded. Number 2, students are given feedback about the vocabulary of electronic devices previously seen. Number 3, students are shown a whiteboard with the stress patterns of words related to electronic devices. In this case, I will need a whiteboard and some markers to write the stress patterns of some words related to electronic devices in order to improve their pronunciation and to expand their knowledge. In number 4 says, students are asked to listen and repeat what the collaborator says. In this case, the collaborator is going to use drilling in order to say something, and the students are asked to repeat what the collaborator says in order to improve their pronunciation. And number 5, the students are checked and corrected when necessary.
For the fourth class, which is about future expressions, the main aim is that students will be better able to express situations orally regarding either near future or far future events. So the functional language is predicting and expressing future events using future simple and the vocabulary technology or information technology. For the first station, the skill is writing using Suggestopedia method. So students are formed into a horseshoe and introduce the simple future tense through colored flashcards, so they feel close as they learn more effectively, as teacher and students are closer to each other. In station 2, the skill is writing and speaking using grammar translation method. And the teaching aids is a story from a future traveler. They use the grammar structure to rewrite the story using the future simple and create their own final to the story. For the third station, the skill is listening and speaking using direct method. And there is a handout with 2 pages, one with key vowel sounds with some example words as the first item, and example sentences with these same keywords for the students to be pronounced, to be trained. As for the final station, the skill is writing and listening using direct method. The students are grouped into 4 members for each group as they play a dictation game. So every group receive a number of rewards of points for each correct dictated phrase. Every group can get their own tenths for the next assessments, as many as correct answers from the dictation games.
Regarding the Lesson 5, our main purpose is that students are able to understand information in written or digital texts and share their knowledge about technology around the world, using the learned vocabulary to express ideas and reinforce the knowledge. So, to distribute the class, we applied 4 stations, following the dialogic method. The first one is based on reading, where students are asked to read a brief text and recognize sentences with will and would to be highlighted. Then, they answer some closed questions about the text. To apply the activity, students are given a short handout about a woman that goes to the supermarket. The second station regards on grammar. So, to develop the activity, students are played a game called Dice Review, where students throw the dice and complete a short exercise according to the number that the dice shows, while the teacher or collaborator has a list of exercises according to the dice's face, like defining words of vocabulary, giving examples, recognize definitions, etc. The third station is about writing, where students are asked to read about any electronic device that they have learned from the vocabulary. The writing can be a story, description, biography, etc. in a free writing format to encourage them to write, no mattering the mistakes. Finally, the fourth station is based on vocabulary in a deeper way, where learners are asked to play a game with cardboards where they are asked to link images about vocabulary with the respective definitions. After mentioning the aspects of each station, it is necessary to mention that the main purpose of this activity is to encourage students to share what they have learned during classes, supporting them in case of committing a mistake, because the idea is that students participate no matter in their mistakes, following the dialogic method of instrumental.
Lesson 6. In this lesson, I applied the OA14 to create the activity. The students are given a little feedback of previous lesson, then they are shown the structure of an email through a handout. Also, they are shown examples of topics, expression, and paragraph, etc. After that, students are asked to write an informal email. To do this, they are shown difference between informal and formal emails. In the procedure, students write a draft of their email. Then they make corrections. In case of doubt, students will have the opportunity to ask whatever they want at any moment. Finally, students are able to distinguish between formal and informal email. Main aim of the lessons. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to write an email using the vocabulary of the unit, Information and Communication Technologies. Evaluation criteria. Indicators. Learners make a draft of their text. Students make corrections using the dictionary web page given to look for some words. Also, in base of the OA14 set. Materials. For this lesson, the materials are a handout with some aspect to consider at the moment to write an email, like the purpose, language, structure, common topics, etc. In addition, students are shown slides from a web page of the difference between formal and informal emails. This way, the students will now distinguish the most common difference, like in formal emails you can use contractions or etc. Finally, students are given a task to write their emails solicited using the chart on the handout.